Hey everyone, before we get into this week's episode, I have a little announcement. I recently launched the Awesome Finds newsletter. So each week, I'm going to share a few spotlights on creative people and projects, meaningful stories, and new ideas, all with the goal of sparking our imaginations. So sharing's great, but for me, this is more than just sharing. This is about spreading new ideas and happiness. Okay, that may sound a tiny bit cheesy, but it's true because I believe when we're sharing creativity and ideas, that can spread joy and happiness around. At least that's how I see it. I'm also hoping this helps us cut through all the noise that's all over our social feeds lately and makes this kind of discovery a little bit easier. So here's the simple truth of why I'm doing this. I just want to share the great stuff in the world that energizes me to energize you. So if you want to sign up or want more info about it, go to awesomefinds.info. That's awesomefinds.info. awesomefinds.info. And don't worry, I promise it's a short email and a very quick read. It's supposed to be fun and interesting. I really hope you guys like it. Okay, now to the show. Hey everyone, it's Christopher Swan and welcome to this week's episode of Living Your Journey. Each week I have this amazing opportunity to chat with people that love what they do in life. They understand their passions and their direction. Maybe it's a career path or the social impact that they're making. It's kind of like they're following their North Star, but they know their story may change and they understand that they're on a journey every day. This week, I have a terrific conversation with UK-based recording artist Kalon Rae. Kalon started a solo career in 2016 by releasing his EP, The Day That I Was Killed. He's extremely talented with this unique contemporary style, fusing anthemic pop with cinematic, indie, and urban influences. The first time I heard his music, I knew there was something different about him, and I wanted to know more. Kalon also has this really interesting background. He was part of this well-known vocal choir, Urban Voices Collective, where he was the music director. But this wasn't a small feat at all, as this group performed at really big events, including the closing ceremony at the 2012 London Olympic Games. Kalon has also designed his own specialized singing technique, training others with it, and has worked with a lot of top musical artists. Kalon is all about determination, pursuing his dreams and what he loves, and doing it his way. After the episode, be sure to check out his music and a few of his videos. I've included links in the show notes and added some of the songs and videos to the episode page on accidentalinformation.com. Okay, everyone, meet Kalon Rae. Kalon, it's so great to have you on the show today. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So I was trying to think back about when I was introduced to you, and I think it was mid last year I met you through Twitter.
That is correct.
I'm glad you remember, because I was like, I think that's where I stumbled upon you at. So, when I was introduced to your music, I became obviously an instant fan. You know that, of your music and your talent. And the other thing I found so interesting is you've been so friendly and like kind of fun to get to know in these online spaces. So I'm kind of curious, like, is that typical, that kind of connection for you online?
Not necessarily, no. I've been friendly because you have been too. I kind of react to the energy I am fed. I have met a few people via Twitter. You're actually one of the few I've stayed properly in contact with, which is lovely. And thank you again for having me here.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. It's my pleasure. And I almost felt like I was setting you up to say like I was special. That's not it at all. I was just so curious because I don't think everybody has that kind of interaction, especially through Twitter. It's so quick and yeah. So that's lovely. Well, I'd love to jump right into your solo career. You've recently launched this new solo career, and it was really last year, but it seems fairly recent. Here's what I'm curious about. Why solo? Because I know your past is a little bit different, and we'll get into that, but like, why solo and why now?
Oh gosh, that's a $1 million question. Yes, it was last year. In fact, my EP, The Day That I Was Killed, was released on the 20th of May of 2016. Why solo and why here? I have been working with some bigger names for years. I just for years thought I wouldn't be good at songwriting, to be honest. I gave it a shot and I really liked, clearly, what I had to offer. And I feel very strongly about things that have been happening, especially in 2016. 2016 was a very tough year for the whole world, I'd say. And that's when my thoughts arose and I felt this necessity to have my words and thoughts out.
And so does that mean though you weren't doing any of that before, or was it really about like you wanted to show up just as an individual that had these words and thoughts versus helping others do it?
It was a bit of both, and also the fact that probably my thoughts, I couldn't hear them sung or in music in the scene that was currently being played. So I just decided it was time for me to get my voice out there, and I'm very happy with it.
Had you thought about that prior to that? I mean, was that something that you were kind of working toward, or it really just kind of came to you that like, hey, maybe this is just the right thing now. This is my next evolution.
Well, probably, yes, that's the thing. When I first moved to London, I didn't sing for a whole year because I just assumed everybody would be better than me. Then the next thing was, I want to sing. The next was, oh, I want to have lots of singing jobs like some of the beasts that I would have heard in London. Then I kind of became one of them. And the next thing was doing BVs for bigger artists. And then what was the next thing once I started doing that? I was supposed to doing my own music. But for a while, I was toying with the idea of having people write for me. And I tried that route. But none of what was being written for me, although lovely, actually had something to do with me truly as a person, as an artist. And that's when the necessity of writing my own music came up. And here it is.
I think that's an important point to make too. For people that are not in the music industry, I think hearing about that it's important for you to write your own stuff because it spoke to you, like it had to be authentic.
Yeah.
And I think that's where music feels not. I'm gonna make it sound horrible for people that don't write their music, but I'm gonna say that for people that write their own music and they're singing it, it's so connected to them. It's so personal because I'm starting to hear as a fan, I can hear this like something about your life, which so I feel like that's super personal. So I actually really love that.
Thank you.
Okay, so your EP was just released last year, and this was your first EP. Like you said, it was on May 20th. I remember that day because it was the day after my birthday. So that's how I know it. Here's what I'm curious about. Like, I think it's had some really good reaction so far, especially the stuff I've seen too throughout the UK and Europe, and it's made it definitely stateside. But what's your reaction been so far to how it's been going?
I'm chuffed. I am a very impatient human, and I am battling with the fact that I want more and more and more. But I'm also very well aware that the universe gives you what's right at the right time, and I'm aware that this is a journey. So I am trying to learn as much as I can, even from just having to wait for things to happen. And yeah, I'm over the moon. I'm just looking forward to the next step, to be honest.
Do you talk to others in like your peers or industry as well about that waiting part? Because you're not the only person, and I think that Kalon, that crosses every industry. I feel the same way over here. Like, well, why haven't I reached 1 million people following this show? Like, I've been doing it a while, don't they know? So have you spoken to peers about that, or in other folks that kind of have helped you along the way?
Well, the thing is, because in the past I've worked with bigger artists already, I know that things took a long time for them to. And I have artists who are dear friends of mine at the same level as I am now, who are experiencing exactly the same. What I have seen is that I know a lot of people who have been burned by the music industry just by compromising things when signing contracts, for instance, just out of the desire to get things done quickly. And I do not want to repeat those mistakes. And I am trying to prevent myself from making stupid decisions. So while I might not necessarily be talking exactly about my own impatience, I've seen this story unfold so many times, and I'm just very well aware of everything that I'm doing at the moment.
That's important. Gosh, I think that's so, that piece, that one part of that too, you even just mentioned that example of the contract. Like I could see that impatience of like, oh, well, if I do this, I know I could probably really break through the ceiling of what I'm trying to do. But maybe on the back end, it's not a great deal for me. So you have to kind of decide do you stick it out and do the right journey for yourself for the long run?
Absolutely. The one thing is, we as a human race are used to acting on the spur of the moment, and we really react the most to instant gratification, and that is a mistake, because nothing positive ever comes out of that. Instant gratification only lasts for 5 to 10 minutes. After that, you'll be probably picking up the pieces of what you broke.
I almost feel like it's this pattern addiction, because I've definitely been on the side of instant gratification, and you just keep repeating it because you want that good feeling. I mean, the truth is, obviously, you need to build something that's going to be sustainable, but
it's tough. We're wired to like instant gratification. We are.
Of course. So, okay, the industry, like speaking of kind of that career piece, I think the music industry, obviously, or any of the arts, is really crowded. And
it is.
I'm wondering for yourself, like, how do you strive to stand out? Like, what does that mean for you, or what are you doing to like be not just recognized, but really be true to your own?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I was talking about it very recently to some friends while doing a gig. There's so many people. That's the great thing about the internet. You can easily get your music out. The flip side, of course, is that there is so much music out there, more than ever before. And how do you stand out? There's really, be yourself. Don't try and sound like everyone else. Don't look like everyone else. Don't look the way that you expect people want you to look. Don't sound the way you expect people want you to sound. And that's my only way. To be honest, I haven't made it big yet. So I might be doing something wrong, or I might be doing something right. I feel great about what I'm doing at the moment. And I am relentlessly ignoring all the comments from people who would like me to be a bit more commercial, whatever that means, to be honest, nowadays.
Yeah.
Just say yourself. Say what you have to say. I know there is a niche for that. I know there's a niche for a lot of things. People might not recognize it because they haven't had a chance to hear it yet, but that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. The one thing that people need these days to stand out, to be honest, is a good PR campaign, I suppose. If the product is good. I am always starting from the assumption that what you have to offer is good. If what you have to offer is just average, then there's no chance for it to go out, really.
Yeah, that's really true. That's really true. And I love the PR piece. That is really true because the space is so crowded. I've noticed, though, even with online, like with Twitter and the different spaces, like you've done pretty well with some of that. And obviously there's connections like us. Do you find, though, like, has that really helped as well? Like, not the standing out part maybe, but, well, I don't know, maybe it is part of standing out. Like, has those connections online also helped you kind of get your voice out as well?
It's funny. A lot of people online, it's easy to say things when you're hiding behind a thumbnail, of course. When they have their name out there, people tend, unlike you, for instance, because you've been very vocal about liking my music, which I really appreciate. But a lot of people, even big names, have been great at sending me private messages, which I'm truly grateful for. Don't get me wrong. When it comes to saying it out loud in public, let's say it's not as they're not as ready to do that. On the other hand, I'd rather have somebody say something honest in private than saying something fake publicly, if that makes any sense. So I've had some amazing feedback behind closed doors. Let's say that.
Yeah. That's interesting. I wouldn't think of it that way. I mean, I definitely get some feedback on the other side as well, where people don't see it publicly, but I didn't think of it in that realm for you. So with your EP, I know that you've written the music as you shared. Is there any favorites or any things that stand out of that EP, or something of true meaning that, because I don't really know the story of the EP. I just know the music and I've been a big fan of it and it's been so wonderful. But is there any stories that go ahead and, maybe connect to some of the songs or what you were trying to share?
Sure. Gosh, where do I start? I'd say the last song on the EP, Icarus's Lullaby, is also the very first song I ever wrote myself. It was inspired by Matisse's The Fall of Icarus in the Jazz Collection, which he created during World War II, while his basement was being ravaged by Nazi invaded France. He was too old to draw, so it's a paper cut collection. And if you look at it, actually, you'll see that Icarus really looks like he's floating peacefully. And that had me think, what if Icarus wasn't the epitome of arrogance that we've been thinking about for thousands of years? What if he actually wanted to reach a better place? And that resonated, of course, with a lot of things that had been happening around me. Hence my song. The Day That I Was Killed was the next song I wrote, and it's about memories that I think I have from a past life and the questions that came from those memories. Am I that same person who died then? Is my soul the same soul? If I'd been born on a different day, would I be an entirely different person, or would I be just another version of myself? Talking to the Moon is just about that, what we do have in common as humans, and it's that resilience and that desire to always look ahead. And also the fact that the moon has always been showing the same face to the earth since it was created. And I think that's beautiful. It means that the moon has actually seen every single thing that has happened on earth. It's the moon that Cleopatra was crying to. It's the moon that Shakespeare was looking at while writing the most beautifully written works. So that's what Talking to the Moon is about. And Landscapes is about a terrible experience I had with my ex-manager, who was a master at painting the most beautiful lies. And I used to run through those landscapes until the colors faded and I realized that it was just a faded image.
Oh, those are wonderful stories. I chuckle because those were so much deeper than I thought. The last one that hit home in the sense of, of course, because you're really speaking about something that you have experienced, and I know a lot of songwriters that do that. But in your first story there, like, you really went back to something that was like an influence. Do you look at the world that way? I mean, are you looking at just different stories around the world, not just a personal experience, but are you looking at things for influence or for to see the world in a different light?
All the time. I am very interested in what's old and what's new, and in the fact that a lot of stories that have happened haven't necessarily been talked about. And I kind of feel that energy, and I get the necessity to get them out and talk about them. I draw a lot from mythology and folk stories, and across several cultural and national approaches. So from Greek mythology to Norse mythology. Today I was writing a song about, kind of inspired by King Arthur, and the Bible, which I see as, again, a Christian form of folk narration, if that makes sense.
So interesting. I mean, I love that the way that your brain works with all of this, because I think sometimes we don't see the world. So many of us don't see the world in that way. We just see it as the everyday, what's in front of us.
Thank you. That's kind of why I chose my name, Kalon, to be honest, which is a Greek word, kalon. It means beauty that's more than skin deep and beauty that's moral. And that's kind of my decision. It reflects my decision to sing what's below the surface.
It's almost like you knew. That was literally my next question was, how did you choose that name? That's wonderful.
Well, there you go.
Well, I want to take a step back before your solo career. I know, just knowing that you've done a lot of work with Urban Voices Collective as their musical director, and also I think as a vocalist in there as well.
Yes.
So, I would love to know just like a little bit about your experiences with the collective. What does that look like? Help us understand kind of what you did there, and also some of the fun moments out of that experience.
Right. So I joined the collective. I auditioned as a vocalist for the collective back in 2009. It was my first singing job in London. I then became the musical director at the end of 2011. Immediately after that, we were chosen as the official group of the closing ceremony of the London Olympic Games of 2012. That, of course, opened a lot of doors. How is it structured? There's a floating number of vocalists there. At the moment, I believe there's about 40. And depending on what we're asked to do, the right singers for the job are chosen. It's the best thing that's ever happened in my life. I've made some amazing friends, and I'm not just saying that. I could not have been luckier. I found the right people for me at the right time in the right city. I am not part officially of the collective. I'm not its musical director anymore, but of course I'm very closely in touch with them. Some of the most fun things, of course, the Olympics. We have done the BAFTAs. We sang for the Queen at the Royal Variety. We did the first ever BBC Music Awards. For all those jobs, I wrote the arrangements that we sang on. So it's a job that was it kind of forced onto me, and I had to learn to do it as I was doing it. But have I learned so much from it? It's the best thing again that could ever have happened to me. I'll be forever grateful to them.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the collective, though, and I know that you did a lot of work there, and I also love that they kind of pushed it on you a little bit because it also forced you to grow, right? If you were learning in the moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think sometimes that's actually even the best way to learn is a little bit under the pressure.
Oh, I so agree with you. That's what I believe the most. Always embrace situations where you're out of your comfort zone because that's where you will grow and learn the most. From a safe path, you never gain anything. I believe that totally.
Would that relate also to you going solo? I mean, because that seems a little scary to me, like to go from this other world of working with all these wonderful people and, these different gigs, and, you had some really fun times, it sounds like. But does that challenge translate to you going solo?
Big time. I was terrified when I first started. Oh my God. I was shocked at myself because I had been singing, we'd done some quite massive jobs actually in front of thousands of people at the Olympics. There were actually millions of people watching, and I never broke a sweat. Then when it came to presenting my own original music, even just to my friends, the old shaking came back. And it's a completely different experience. It's your baby. And it's absolutely terrifying, but it's so much more rewarding when it's your own creation that's being served and listened to and appreciated by people.
Was there any way that you even in the moment kind of got past some of that? Because, I mean, I do really understand that. Like, it's your baby. Like, now the pressure is all on you. You can't absorb it through the crowd of people that you're with. But like, did you do anything to kind of help you kind of get through that, to remember to believe in yourself?
To be honest, no. And I don't believe there's anything that can let you do it other than doing it more and more. So I just threw myself into more gigs, small gigs, bigger gigs, and you just do it. That's the only way to get better at dealing with stage fright of any form. Yes, there's no magic cure to it. but it's also the most beautiful thing because by doing it, you know that you can do more and more of it.
So let's talk a little bit more about some of your past. I think you also, and this might be past and current, you've also worked with other like collabs or vocal groups. Has that, like, I think there was one with called Matisse that you were working with. I might have the name wrong, but it seems like that seems to be something that you do enjoy. I'm curious about, like, if you're doing solo, has collabs been something that you do want to continue to do or that you really enjoy?
I love doing collaborations with other artists. Matisse was a group that's now actually not working anymore, but it was a vocal quartet running in London that I actually started and I did all the arrangements for with three other fellow singers, Janine Johnson, with whom I still collaborate a lot, Rachel Matthews and Gianluca De Martini. But I have just been in Italy actually on tour because I've joined a local group called The Soul Six. We've done a Christmas album in Italian and Neapolitan in English, and which I'm absolutely proud of. The work is called Sacro Profano. Yes, I love everything that putting other people's ideas, musical ideas and literary ideas together and create something new. I love creating something new, I'd say.
I just listened actually to the Soul Six. I just watched the video. I don't know how I missed that, the video that you guys had done. And I was surprised to see, I'm like, oh, this is not in English. And it was so wonderful. I didn't need to know
Thank you.
you're welcome. I didn't even, the language barrier to me wasn't really a barrier because it was just lovely. And you could really see the emotions that each one of you would bring to the screen. So it was really lovely. I was surprised to see it.
Thank you very much. I'll be working with these guys again in February. There's quite a few big things coming up, so watch this space.
That's so wonderful. So, there's this other piece of work that you've done a little bit too, that I know that you've done a little bit of coaching and you even creating your own singing technique. And here's why I bring it up. First, I found it really fascinating, but I think about this stuff from kind of like the newbie person who hears about you. I met you mid last year. I was new to your music. The only thing I knew was this solo EP. And so for me, it felt like you just sprung out of nowhere. You just this brand new artist. But as I started to look at this, gosh, you've been making music behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, in so many different ways. Is it important to you, like, not just to be the solo, but maybe just to really kind of help the music industry or help others?
That's a great question. First of all, I do think that my being a solo artist is actually a result of all the things I've done before. So I don't necessarily see it as abstract from the rest. Second, yes, I have been so immensely lucky, and all I can do really is to share the gifts I've been given. And by sharing, I mean multiplying. I do believe that sharing creates more opportunities for everyone. I'm not one of those territorial singers who will go, oh, that's my turf, and pee all over it. No, that's not what I do.
I love the multiplying. And I love that sharing isn't just, I'm sharing my gift by singing. I'm sharing by helping others as well, or that multiplying. That I haven't heard somebody say that. That's wonderful. Has music always been part of your life? I mean, just growing up, part of your life in a very serious way, like in an important way?
Yes, I probably was singing as I was coming out of the womb. I used to put on little shows for my parents when I was 3. And growing up, I was kind of a fairly angry, defensive kid because I grew up in southern Italy where, especially at the time I was growing up, the general mentality was quite backward. I was always the inquisitive, non-very butch kid. So I had a bit of a tough time, and I developed this angry personality by which I would always do my worst and attack before I could be attacked by other people. And in fact, I'm writing a song about that now. called Armor, where I say that I wear my fears like an armor, protecting from the hopes I harbor. But music, actually, before music, acting was my way of harnessing my difference and realizing that there is a life out of the box, and it's just as happy a life as anything else.
It's so interesting. I do love that you also were open about the, you know, feeling rough as a childhood and using the armor there. I think so many of us find ways to defend ourselves. And it's interesting, even with music, thinking about that now, you're pulling it forward.
Yeah.
So with acting, you know, you're thinking about acting earlier, and you were obviously singing as you were a child. At what point did you start to realize that you could actually do something like a career with this? I ask this specifically because I think many people love the arts, but they don't always, they don't equate that to, and I'm going to make this my career. Like it can be a hobby. When did that happen for you?
Well, that's the thing. There's kind of a stigma around wanting to be an artist full time as well. When people assume, oh, you're so much better than that, you could be doing that as a hobby. It's not about that. It's about the passion. I had been singing professionally since I was 15, but when I moved to London at age 19, I was still ashamed of admitting I wanted to do music full time because I was very successful academically. And everyone expected me to do great things. What's great things anyway? And then at some point, I just realized that whatever I was doing, which was I was happy with, I was studying politics, philosophy, and history, it just wasn't making me as happy as being on a stage. And I just had to make that decision. It was a big leap in the dark, and everyone was against the idea. My parents, my partner, my friends, and now they're all happy for me, of course, and they all want to share this what they see as success.
Was it also that did they first finally come along, do you think, where they could see, either was it success that they're like, oh, you really can do this, or oh, this is really, look at him, he's happier than he's ever been. What kind of shifted it for them?
That's a good question. I wonder about that. With some of them, I know that it was coming to see me and seeing that, okay, you can actually do it.
Yeah. Maybe it was just like the power of belief. They didn't know. They don't know what they don't know.
No, they don't know what they don't know. And that's what ruins a lot of things in life at the moment, and what ruined a lot of 2016, I think.
What's been some surprises along this journey for you, good and bad, as you've now taken that leap from, I'm going to do this full time?
I never assumed people to like my music. I never assume that everyone or that even anyone will. I've had some amazing feedback, and I've also had some really nasty comments from people. To be honest, I laugh when I get them. There was some review I got where the comments were, she sounds like Tracy Chapman.
Gosh.
I know.
People are silly.
By the way, if you're listening, Tracy Chapman, I adore you. And he goes out of tune during the instrumental, which I can only laugh about, to be honest. And to be honest, all these comments have inspired me to write my new album, which I'm writing at the moment, which will be called Songs of Babel, because it's inspired and dedicated to all the people who don't understand the value of being different.
I love that. That's actually something that's so close to my heart. And in fact, even through my company, that's something we really focus on, is that, like, the power of being unique. Own your uniqueness. Own that. It's kind of a superpower.
I think it is, absolutely.
Oh, I can't wait for that. So that's wonderful. I actually really agree. Here's something that I think about sometimes too, because I see these things through just folks I know in the industries, or even for myself. When you see these sorts of reviews, do you also see things as, we kind of generalize them? It's almost like air quote, like haters. We'll say that for the internet because there's so many people are hiding behind those kind of comments. This happens especially on YouTube, but in other spaces. Do you do you also look for the actual criticism, or do you just, that negativity is just too strong online and it's just not valuable enough to even weed through any of that?
Uh, um, I'm in two minds about it. Uh, while of course, I don't write my music just for music people, but when it comes to having somebody's opinion, there's I will be interested, very interested in the opinion from people who want to tell me about what my music made them feel. I won't necessarily be interested in the opinion that wants to have something to say about the technique, about the music, because I do feel very confident and very strongly about what I do. And I know that I am at peace and I am extremely happy with the results, the technical results of my work. So we also this is a really specific new time in history where A, people reject the opinion of experts, but B, people feel they are experts about everything.
You just hit it. That's so true.
And so I'm not interested in that kind of opinion or that kind of discourse. And I can sniff it out from a mile. And I just avoid it now.
Is the focus in the future, as well as you continue with your career, because you're based in London, and
Yes.
is there focus also to cross, over to the States or to other areas as well, or are you primarily focused in your region, and then you'll move there, your music into those areas in the future?
No, I'm I'm planning to conquer the world.
That's the right answer.
So there you go.
No, that's perfect. And I asked that too, not that because, the States isn't everything, but obviously there's a very big market here for this industry. So it made me think about it.
Yes, and again, I don't just see it as a market. I see it as a wealth of experiences and people. That's what I believe about music and art in general. It's never a monologue. It's always a discourse. And that's what I'm most interested in, both live and when it comes to recordings.
No, you're absolutely right. It is all about experiences. And I love that you look at it that way. I think we're more like than we are separate. We just don't realize it.
Yes.
So when you think about the future, like, what's the goal for you? And here's what I'm asking, because I think you're really talented, and it's talented, like we talked about in this conversation, behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, collab, solo. But is it really about a solo artist career and then collaborations in the future, or what does that mean for you in the future for you?
Oh, that's a big question. I'll just tell you that my mark of success would be having as many people as possible listen to my music and have a discourse with me through my music. So I am not that interested in fame, not that interested in riches, although I'm definitely looking forward to being financially secure and independent solely through my music. But I just want my music to be heard by as many people as possible. I want that my music to inspire other people to create something else. I want people to understand that, again, being out of the box, whatever the box is fine, and that they are entitled to being what and who they are just by virtue of being. There should be no other other rights, no other ways of being if not yourself. And the best thing you can be is literally yourself. So long as you don't hurt other people, of course.
Sure, of course. No, I think, and that's a wonderful way to even grow your career. Just base it on what you're trying to, versus maybe the tactical, tangible things of solo versus other things. It's more about, you just want to make amazing music that touches people right in those, and
Yes.
and lift up your ideas. What holds you back with some of, as you continue to write and grow, or Maybe what holds you back or what energizes you?
What holds me back is always the question: is the song too out there? I ask, is this song too weird? I always ask myself that. Is this going to be received well? Is this should I write? Am I missing up-tempo songs? Should I write more up-tempo songs because that's what people seem to like these days? And what energizes me is just that really nice thought of, you know what, actually, I like it, and that's what's most important. I also love, again, another thing that does energize me is collaborations. I find it so fresh, so beautiful, and working with my friends. I have some amazing artists, and that makes me happy, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see how that can pull you forward. If somebody was going to start a career, I think you're so fresh into this that you have a really interesting perspective. So if somebody was saying, hey, I really want to jump in there like you did, I want to go for it
Yes.
and start music, is there any sort of, maybe just one piece of advice you would give them?
Yes, stay independent for as long as you can. Do not sign your life away to anyone who's not going to give you exactly everything that you know you need without any of the things you know you don't need.
Mm. Thinking about how you're like, hey, don't sign your life away. Is there anything in the last, so many years that you would have done differently?
There's two answers to that. Yes, a million things, but no, none of them, because I also see my goal as being the result of the journey. The goal is not B from A. It's the whole number of points that go from A to B. And I would not have the ideas or the experience or the craft that I have at the moment if I hadn't gone through a lot of things. I do firmly believe that there's no such thing as a good thing or a bad thing happening to you, if not after you've decided it was such a thing in hindsight. We look back at what happened to us, and just by deciding it was a positive thing, we turn our attitude towards it, turns it into positive things, and positive things happen from it.
Yeah, it's true. I think it's also just the way you look at it. Even hindsight, look back to understand that.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what?
Absolutely.
And it kind of goes back to what you said about when I mentioned market and you mentioned experiences, right? That's like that experience shaped you. Hopefully, you learn from it.
Yes, absolutely. If you learn from it, it's not a mistake, is it?
Yeah, and that's absolutely true. It's all about experiences. Well, this has been super terrific. I love that you let me just kind of dive into your career and learn from what you've been doing in your experiences. Where is the best place to follow you online?
Right, I'm on all of the online things. I am on Instagram at Kalon Rae, Kalonrae. I'm on YouTube, Kalon Rae Official. I'm on Twitter, Kalon_Rae. I have a website, www.kalonrae.com, obviously. And I am on Facebook.com/Kalon Rae.
Yeah, there are a ton of places, and I will say, we'll include that in the show notes as well and on our website.
Thank you.
I would definitely, anybody who's listening, if you go to our website, we'll include links to your music and links to everything so they can check you out, because really just so wonderful. So again, this is such a terrific time. Thank you so much for joining me and having the conversation.
Thank you for having me here. It's been lovely.
So what did you think? Any new ideas? Are you going to try something new? I'm always left with ideas and feeling great after these conversations. These guests really energize me. If you want to share your thoughts about the guest or how the show sparked a new idea, I'd love to hear it. You can actually call me and leave me a message at 1-707-347-9312. That's 1-707-347-9312. Just include your name in a brief message, and you may even be featured on a future show. If you want to follow along with me and see behind the scenes fun and my adventures, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at @MeChristopher. That's MECHRISTOPHER. You can also follow along with Accidental Information on Instagram and Facebook at Accidental Information, and on Twitter at Accidental Info. Also, we publish original articles weekly about following your passions, getting creative, and a lot more, all at accidentalinformation.com. Lastly, if you love the show and you want to spread the goodness around, go tell a friend about it. As in, literally text someone or email it to them. I'd love it. Also, please make sure you're subscribed to receive new episodes automatically each week. Thanks again for joining the conversation. Okay, that's it. We'll talk again next week.